Hey traders, welcome back to another profit and loss recap video. Today is Friday, December 22nd. I just finished up trading for the morning. We had some really solid trade opportunities to end the week before the long holiday weekend, and I was able to lock in $1,634 in profit. So stay tuned. In this video, we're going to talk about these trades, and I'm going to break down my thought process behind them, as well as what led me to buy and sell at the prices that I did. All that being said, I want to give a few quick shout outs to start off the video. We had Green Dog, who also locked in $492 in profits trading the NXTP spike. Kane was able to lock in $310 in profits on NXTP and then another $100 on GMBL. We had a nice 16% profit on NXTP from Lore, who was in at about $2 and out at $2.33. So I'm really happy to see that I'm not the only one in this group that's making solid profits on these trade opportunities. But now without further ado, let's go ahead and break down this trade. So this morning in pre-market, if we take a look at the pre-market prep, we had quite a few stocks that were gapping up. The action was pretty strong. Some of the top percent gainers were RMCO, which was up about 116%. This was at about 848 this morning. SMFL, which has had a lot of momentum over the past couple of days, was up another 54% this morning in pre-market. KRTX, which was a buyout stock, was up 47%. And then we had NXTP, which at the time was up only 39% at a price of $1.26. Now, there was no news, at least any that I could find for NXTP. I looked through, Yahoo Finance, I looked through other news sources, and I also looked into the SEC filings, and I didn't see any actual catalyst that was driving this stock higher. However, I will say that obviously we don't necessarily need some kind of news to have a big move in the stock market. The stock market is going to move solely on supply and demand. So if there's enough demand, there's enough volume coming into the stock, that can cause a big spike up. And that's really all that we need to get the stock in the eyes of other traders. And that can lead to even more demand and an even bigger spike to the upside. So that being said, despite NXTP not having any news, it was one of the top percent gainers going into the market open, and it was one of the stocks that we were watching for a gap and go this morning. The opening range breakout levels were posted per usual. NXTP had an opening range breakout level of $2.04. Now, like I mentioned in yesterday's video, I set up this new bot here in the Discord that is actually going to alert us when the price of one of these stocks in this list here breaks above its opening range breakout level. So first we had SNTI, which didn't have much follow through. A few minutes later, we had GMBL, which was a reverse split stock. There was a ton of volatility, and it ended up having a big spike later in the morning, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But the one we want to focus on, obviously, is NXTP, which at 9:53 this morning started to break above that $2.04 opening range breakout level. So when our Discord bot here posted that in the chat, that's when it was really put back on my radar and became one of my main focuses. I didn't buy into this initial opening range breakout, but it did very quickly push up to a high from that breakout of $2.39. And then we start to see a little bit of a pullback. If we zoom in here to the price action, what I want to emphasize is that not only the VWAP, but also that past opening range breakout level at $2.04 starts to turn into support. And this is something that I talk about all the time when I'm talking about support and resistance. When there is a level of resistance and then we get a breakout above that resistance, in order for this stock to remain strong and to continue running higher, that breakout level or that past resistance should ideally turn into support. So once we get this pullback and we start to see that that area is turning into support, it also again happens to align nicely with the VWAP. That's what ended up leading me into buying this stock. I was building into a position in the 220 area, and I knew that I had relatively low risk on this trade because if it happened to start breaking down underneath that breakout level, that was going to be a red flag for me and I probably would have cut losses on this trade. So really I was only risking 20 or 30 cents per share on this trade, and as we can see, it ended up having a really solid spike off of that newfound support level. As soon as I got into the trade, entered an order to sell a portion of my shares up into the pre-market highs. So in this big spike here, I sold some in the 270 area. We then end up getting a volatility halt here. It gaps up and spikes even higher, and I locked in the rest of my profits in the 330s. On that trade, I ended up with $1,656 in profits. which is a really solid profit, obviously, but what I'm most happy about is the fact that this was only a $4,385 investment since I only had 2,000 shares, and on top of that, I only risked probably $400 to $500 on this trade because, like I said, if it were to start breaking down underneath that breakout level, that was what I was risking off of, and that's where I would have cut losses on this trade. So I risked $400 to $500 and ended up making $1,634, which means that this was a great risk to reward ratio on this trade. And ideally, when you're getting into any trade, you should have a risk level in mind, and you should also have a target price in mind to start locking in some profits. And this is kind of the ideal example of that. So I want to say that this Discord bot that we have set up now with the opening range breakouts is going to be a huge help in catching these big morning movers. So if you're interested in accessing this and joining us in the group, make sure to come sign up. There's going to be a link down below in the description, and your first week will be 100% free. That being said, I also want to briefly cover the move in GMBL. GMBL here, we can see it looks like there was a massive gap up, but that's actually not the case. There was a 1 for 400 reverse split that was done today. One thing that I've probably talked about before on this channel is the fact that when there is a reverse split, a lot of times that's going to lead to a spike in the stock price. The reason being is because when there is a reverse split done, it's going to divide the float by that number of the reverse split. So yesterday, MULN had a 1 for 100 reverse split, which means that the float size was divided by 100. And obviously, as we know, low float stocks often have the biggest move in the stock market. So because of that, when volume started to pour into MULN yesterday, we ended up getting this really solid squeeze from the $7 area all the way up to a high of $18.70, only about an hour or an hour and a half later. So I knew that GMBL was in a similar situation, and I knew that there was potential for a similar type of move, but I will say that there was quite a bit of volatility and choppiness here at the market open. We had several back-to-back volatility halts, and we had several false breakouts here above the VWAP and above that opening range breakout level. So I decided to entirely avoid this stock, even though it was alerted as an opening range breakout, and even though it did end up having a pretty nice move from the 5s all the way up to a high of $8.22. All right, now as for my other trade for today with MGTX, this was pretty much a break-even trade for me. The reason that I was in this trade in the first place was the fact that yesterday we had a solid climb higher. There was also nice news released with this stock and a good catalyst. So once it closed at the high of day and it had strong relative volume and no major nearby levels of resistance, I knew that there was a good setup for a continuation today. And then we get this strong open that pretty much immediately pushes above that previous day high. And I take a starter position of 1,000 shares in the 680s. I was hoping for a nice breakout above 7, but as we can see, so far $7 is the high of the day, and it ended up rejecting that area, started to pull back to VWAP, and because of my other profits in NXTP, I kind of ended up losing patience with this one and kind of just sold at break even. I had a loss of about $21 only on that trade. So anyway, those were my main focuses for the day and my trades for the day. I ended up with $1,634 in profits to end the week. Hopefully you guys are ending the week and ending the year on a strong note. And I also hope that you were able to find some value in this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you want to hear about these stocks that I'm trading in real time, as well as work with our team of traders, get access to our day trade and swing trade alerts, our detailed trade plans, our live custom scanner streams, and so on and so forth. All of that can be found in the Market Master group. There's going to be a link down below in the description for you to get signed up. Anyway, thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck with your trading.